So today I wanted to talk about something that might be a bit controversial. I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it before, but it's been something that I've been bouncing around for a while thinking about. And it's that since the Switch era, Nintendo's music is getting a bit worse in its flagship titles. And I don't know if worse is the best way to describe it. It might just be that it's less iconic. It's less of like that pinnacle standard that Nintendo had previously set for its music, where it was like transcendental. Like you can listen to this and you can listen to it every day on repeat, and you can have like fucking masterclass musicians listen to this stuff and just be awestruck. And I think there's a lot of nuance to it. So before you shoot me down immediately, let me make my case. So I'm talking games like the Mario games, especially 2D and 3D. I'm talking Zelda is a very interesting case that I'll go into after this, but that one is a bit different from the others since the Switch era. But I'm talking Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I am talking Yoshi games, generally the party games, the Mario Party games, the Mario Sports games. I think just overall we're seeing a shift where every soundtrack that comes out is not as unique and as, like I said, iconic as Nintendo is usually known for. And the biggest way that I noticed this was Odyssey. I feel like Odyssey had some really catchy tunes, some real standouts that were great. And overall, I think it's a very good soundtrack. But like I said, Nintendo had previously in the N64, GameCube, Wii U era, even before that, the SNES, NES era, they were known for making things that like no one else could do. They would be able to bring to life these games that were just so simple. These were the types of games that you wouldn't think would have much depth to them, but I feel like the musical element of them really adds so much. And like I said, Odyssey was the one that stood out to me the most. So Odyssey, it has a really nice, like, vibrant, especially emphasizing like adventure and like whimsy and excitement. And I think some tracks are fantastic, like the desert level, Tostarena. It's been a little while since I played it, forget the name of the place, but that one is fantastic. There's certainly like at least a handful that are really good, but just overall, they don't stand up to that same level of quality. And I noticed this because I was going back and listening, every once in a while I'll just like go through some of my favorite games and listen to their soundtracks. And whenever I do that with Odyssey, it just doesn't hit the same. And then I was realizing that this has been a pattern with a lot of the newer Nintendo titles since like the Switch generation. And I feel like it's very easy to tell with Odyssey versus 3D Mario games of the past, because 3D Mario was known for bringing some of the most unique and awe-inspiring music out of any franchise. You can look back at Sunshine, and almost every single song is a complete banger. Mario Galaxy like transcended the medium so much, like it just became a thing of its own. And one thing I'll say is that a lot of conversation about how good Nintendo music has been lately has definitely hinged on remixes of the classic music. And I think that's really interesting. Like, take for example, Mario Kart World. I think Mario Kart World might have the best soundtrack of all time. It is incredible what they were able to do with these pre-existing tracks. And it is just, I listen to it constantly, and I think it's like, it's so explosive and interesting and dynamic. And so much of it is just like such good quality jazz, like it's incredible. But what I was coming to realize is like, what's different about Mario Kart World that sets it apart from a lot of the newer Switch titles? And it's that all of it is iterative. There are a few new tracks that are pretty good, but they do not stand out nearly as much. Like even the opening theme For Mario Kart World, I'm not even that big of a fan of it. Like, I feel like it gets really old. It was cool when I heard it the first time because it's like, you know, it gets you excited. But when I really listen to it, it doesn't feel like anything magical like I'm used to with Nintendo. And so yeah, I was starting to realize like this is a pattern with Nintendo, right? Where some of the best they do is by transforming what was already there. And my argument really comes down to that new original music is not measuring up to the standard. And another example I saw with this is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think for the most part, you know, people will be surprised to hear that because the soundtrack has been really praised. I think it's a really good soundtrack. The thing is, for me at least, when I was playing that game, you know, the music of each different layer was it was either like peaceful or whimsical, and it like really, you know, brought a ton of joy while you're playing the game. But the original music for those new areas and things definitely did not stand up to me to the original music from the older games that Donkey Kong Bonanza utilizes. For instance, like towards the end of the game, when you start hearing some really surprising old tracks, they are transformed in amazing ways, and like you will instantly feel that really magical Nintendo feeling when they play. And I really just didn't feel that throughout the rest. And you know, I went back and I was listening to the Donkey Kong Bonanza soundtrack, and like I said, it's great. Like some people might even love it, but I do feel like there is a quality dip between the new original tracks and the remastered old ones. And I think this expands to so many games. Mario Wonder was a pretty big disappointment for me, music-wise. It again has some, and again, I'm not saying that any of these are bad soundtracks by any means. Nintendo still makes, you know, some of the best music in gaming. I'm just saying that that kind of magic that they were able to achieve in almost every game before, it now feels like the longer that some of these series are going on, especially, the more they're struggling to create new, unique songs. And that's why I think it's prevalent with 3D Mario. When you look at Odyssey, I think it dropped off a bit after 3D World, actually. I think 3D World is the last fantastic 3D Mario soundtrack. And even when they went and made Bowser's Fury, you can tell that they didn't have the same juice. You know, it was good music, but it was nowhere near as iconic as the original Mario 3D World music. And so I feel like that Wii U era, you know, really ended things and started this new kind of path that they go on with the music, where it just feels like maybe they're just running out of unique ideas. I mean, these series have been spanning decades, and it makes sense that eventually you might not have any new inspired material. You know, they're just pumping games out, and not everyone can stand on its own that much. I mean, it seems impossible, but like I said, I think it really shows in games that have been, or franchises that have been in practice for a long time. Like a great example is Splatoon. Splatoon 3 on the Switch has fantastic music, great music, and it's original. And it might even be the best of the series. I think a lot of people consider Splatoon 3's music to be the best. The DLC music is fantastic. So much of it really is so standout. And I think that's because, I mean, this is only the third Splatoon game. There's still so much growth that the series will have, and it will explore new things. I mean, now we're going to be getting a game that's, you know, more of an adventure than Splatoon has ever been, more of an like expansive, hopefully single player or co-op experience. And so I think there's a lot more potential for Splatoon, and it hasn't hit that cap yet. But with the 3D Mario, with Donkey Kong, with even 2D Mario, with Mario Wonder, it's becoming pretty evident. And the Mario Kart phenomenon is really the thing that sold me the most. Like, everyone agrees universally that it is one of the best soundtracks of all time, that it might even take best soundtrack over Expedition 33. The Game Awards, something that I at first thought was ludicrous, and then when I started really getting into all the music from World, I was fully convinced that it should win. And yeah, I just think it's a shame because you can see with certain projects like Breath of the Wild, so that I told you I was going to talk about this later. Breath of the Wild manages to be something very different. And I've seen actually like music experts break down the music of Breath of the Wild and talk about how unique it is and how different and interesting it is. And it's interesting because it was kind of hit or miss, the music for Breath of the Wild. And that shows that it was unique, right? It was a new take. It was bold. And I think it paid off really well. I think the music of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is fantastic. And it uses some of the older music, but it really like deconstructs it so much more than just remastering it the way that like Mario Kart does or Donkey Kong Bonanza does with its old songs. And it's super cool to see because it is, like Breath of the Wild, philosophy-wise, is something brand new for any gaming series, right? They created something, the type of open world that hadn't existed before. And I think the music reflects that. And it's very interesting because those songs are have their own kind of methodology to them. Like, it's very soft piano tones, and it's nothing super dynamic and overwhelming other than like the theme song for Breath of the Wild, which I think is fantastic. It's one of my favorite tracks of like any game that plays in the trailer, especially like the song that played for the original trailer of Breath of the Wild, the big trailer where they revealed the full game. That blew me away, and I felt like, oh my God, this is going to be really special. And Zelda is a game that has such a large history of being tied to its music. You know, music has been at the forefront of each Zelda game. And I think it progressed really well. I mean, every Zelda game has incredible music, and they manage to nail it every time. So maybe that series is not having the same problem as a lot of these others. And I think that part of it for this Zelda era is, like I said, this complete transformation of what the game is. It is now so different in philosophy from the original Zelda games or the 3D Zelda games. It's its own thing, and it created its own kind of, genre for it. And I think that it kind of goes in line with the methodology of the game, the philosophy of the game, that it is exploration, and it's, kind of slow, measured exploration. It's not like a wild ride that you're, flying down. It's not like a theme park that you're going to and just like enjoying all these different tracks. It's like subtle, right? It's really subtle, and it's beautiful, and it's unique and something new, and it's fantastic. But you can look at other games even Yoshi is a great example. The original Yoshi games, both like Yoshi's Island and Yoshi's, 64 Yoshi, Yoshi's Story. So Yoshi's Island, Yoshi's Story, you hear some incredible tracks, by the way, that are remixed. Some of the songs are remixed in Mario Kart World from Yoshi's Island, and they are so goddamn good. And it's like, well, look at old school Yoshi music versus what we have now. I mean, the games themselves aren't great. In my opinion, I haven't liked the newer Yoshi games that much. They haven't stood out to me. But their music certainly isn't hitting nearly as hard either. It's good. And again, I don't think Nintendo has ever produced a truly bad soundtrack. But, is it like transcendental? Is it something you're going to remember forever? Certainly not for me. And that's the way that, Bonanza really convinced me too. The things that stood out to me that I keep playing in my head, other than the transformation music, which sticks in your head forever. And I would argue not because it is the best, but because it is constant throughout the game. I think that the Bonanza transformation songs are really good on their own, but I would not put them up there with the best of Donkey Kong music. I mean, Donkey Kong music is like its own thing. It's incredible. Those games, I just went back and played Tropical Freeze. I'd never played it before, and I was just blown away by the entire soundtrack. And I just did not feel that with Bonanza, other than, like I said, the remixed originals. So it was very interesting. And I feel like one thing that a lot of people might say about this is, hey, it's nostalgia. These are old games. You played them while you were a child. You loved them so much. They became, the music blended with your experience of playing these games for the first time, you know, being introduced to a lot of these franchises for the first time. And, you know, that's the simple solution, right? It's all nostalgia. But truthfully, I don't think it is, because I have gone back and played games that I've never played before, like Yoshi's Island. I had never played Yoshi's Island before until last year. I played it and I thought it had one of the best soundtracks of any 2D platformer. You know, I was like completely awestruck. And, you know, compared to me playing the newer Yoshi games like Woolly World and just being a bit disappointed. So I do feel like it's not all nostalgia. Tropical Freeze as well, I gave that example. You know, I had never played Tropical Freeze. It was a Wii U era game, and I wasn't super heavy on the Wii U. So when I played Tropical Freeze for the first time just, you know, 2 weeks ago, I jumped right into that after Bonanza, and I just felt such a large difference in the scale of how inspiring and just truly amazing the soundtrack is. Like, I think Tropical Freeze has one of the best soundtracks of all time, and it does iterate, right? There's a lot of remasters of old things, and they do a fantastic job. But what Tropical Freeze does that I don't feel Bonanza does is create new music that stands up to the old stuff and can really, you know, hold its own. And some of it is just truly fantastic, and it's brilliant, and it's unique, and it's new. So yeah, some things that I am not as comfortable with are like Pikmin. I think people generally loved the third game Pikmin's soundtrack. I mean, the fourth Pikmin's soundtrack on the Switch. But I'm not super into Pikmin, so I'm not too comfortable making that argument. But I have heard music from it. It sounds fantastic. And Pikmin is also still kind of, you know, it hasn't been drawn out that much. It's only on its fourth game over, you know, such a huge period of years. But, you know, these games, the Mario 3D games, 2D Mario games, 2D Donkey Kong, and blending into the new Donkey Kong, 3D Donkey Kong, these have been around forever. So I just worry, you know, is Nintendo reaching a point here where for these flagship titles, they won't be able to keep delivering on just iconic music that blows you away and sticks with you forever. And I think that's unfortunate. So I'm hoping that they look to Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild's soundtrack, like I said, was great because it wasn't iterative. It set a whole new tone for a whole new type of game. And I think if they can keep trying to master that, they will have a really good time. And I think the Bonanza transformations are some of the closest to that in terms of this is a new philosophy for a new type of game, right? Each of those is really dynamic, the music for the transformations. I mentioned earlier not thinking that they stand up to the standards, and I stand by that. I do think they're great, though. And they're unique, and they're fun, and they fit the tone of the game so well. You know, when you turn into the original Bonanza transformation, you're just destroying everything. The Kong Bonanza, and you have this, you know, crazy music playing in the background that you would never expect in a Nintendo game, and it's fantastic. So, but that's just, you know, 4 of the tracks, and even then, I feel like they didn't hit the mark. And a big way that I noticed this is because they became so annoying to me over time. Truly, the Kong Bonanza, especially because I use that transformation so much. Like, I got so sick of the music to the point where I can't listen to it at all anymore. And I think that's unfortunate. Instrumental versions of it, like they play in the final stages, the like secret levels or whatever you want to call them, that is really like on another level too. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Is Nintendo reaching a point with its established flagship titles that it can't create new, unique projects that are just as good as you know, back in the day? or, you know, am I entirely wrong? Let me know what you think. And like I said, I'm for my part, I'm just kind of hoping that each game looks to the change that Breath of the Wild executed in, you know, changing up formula and changing up old standards so much that they bring something really new and unique to these soundtracks.
Yeah, sorry, this is awkward, but these videos are completely unscripted, so I actually left out one game series that really stood out to me the most, actually, as an example of one that's music has deteriorated in quality since the Switch iteration of it, and that's Metroid Dread. Dread was a fantastic game, like really well loved, but its soundtrack really didn't live up to the heights of the series. I mean, Metroid has, like, you know, spanned generations and has influenced so much music and gaming, and many people felt that Dread just really fell flat, and it was a super big disappointment. Now you have Metroid Prime 4 coming out, and you know, we can only hope that that they nail the soundtrack for that, especially because the Prime series especially has been known for some really unique music. But yeah, just another example of Switch music not, or Switch era games soundtracks not living up to the heights of the originals of these series, or even just, you know, midway through the series. It seems like it's reached a point where it's just falling off a bit.